I'm Mike.
And I'm Matt.
And this is The Coin Show. On this episode of The Coin Show, Matt talks about 1950 D. Jefferson Nickels. I give you my 2 cents on half cents, and we talk about the coolest thing to walk into Matt's shop this week. But first, as always, the news. The news is brought to you by the American Numismatic Association. The ANA will be celebrating 75 episodes of The Coin Show and the many more to come at the National Money Show in Atlanta. Stay tuned to hear how you can congratulate Mike and Matt on their milestone podcast and how you could win a prize just by signing the congratulations card. MattCoinNews.net is reporting that a 1974 D aluminum cent has been authenticated at the Long Beach Expo.
I saw this. This is cool.
The thing is that 1974 aluminum cents were all thought to have been from Philadelphia. And my question is that, what kind of an impact would this Denver coin now have? It's almost like when the 43 copper cents were being discovered that there was a Denver one and there was a San Francisco one. Mm-hmm. But in researching the aluminum cent, because there's just been so much of it going on, I noticed that there were over 1 million 1974 aluminum cents struck in 1973. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that there were over 1 million of them struck.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
And I think they took just a handful of them out of the mint.
Yeah, well, they were given to members of Congress, things like that. I was the stories that I heard, was that it was given to people that could actually passed the legislation to kind of give them an example of what it was going to be like, and a lot of them weren't returned. So, in 1996, Coin World broke the story that there were 1975 dated aluminum cents. Are you aware of those?
I actually am not.
Okay. Coin World in 1996 broke a story that there are actually 1975 dated aluminum cents, and I believe there's like 6 of them. It's the number of them is very small, but they're out there, and they've been known about, for, almost 20 years. But, this one coming to light with being made at Denver, that's something that's really odd because, first off, I don't believe for a minute that it's a one-off thing.
Oh, no, it can't be.
Well, it can, but the likelihood of it is virtually impossible. So that means that there are more of them out there that we don't know about. Are there San Francisco strikes?
Yeah, they were. I would say, weren't they? They were still minting coins in '74, right?
Well, yeah, they were minting them in '74. West Point was minting them. That's how much they needed cents.
But those were all just Philadelphia marks.
Yeah, those were no mint mark. But yeah, San Francisco was minting circulation strike pennies in 1974.
Interesting speculation.
So, like I said, that there's at least one of these. There's more than likely at least another.
It's hard to say.
But now that this is surfaced from a branch mint, that it's not completely contained to Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. That just, you as a coin dealer, what would you do if something like this showed up in your shop?
Well, first I would make sure that the Secret Service wasn't going to come kick my door down.
As might have been actually holding this 74D under wraps for that exact reason.
Yeah, because that kind of stuff, coins that were supposed to be returned or that were never supposed to leave the mint, it's kind of a gray area. The government's been known to come in and get them, such as the 33 double eagles. But there's other coins like the Martha Washington patterns that they don't bother with. So it's it's tough to say.
Yeah, it's almost you don't know if they're going to or not. I mean, because there's no precedent, and there's definitely not a consistency in the way that they've handled it over the years.
Yes, exactly. They're very inconsistent about how they handle things like that.
Yes. Now, New Year's bring with them, new products, and the United States Mint is releasing the first America the Beautiful quarter for this year, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park quarter.
Oh, cool.
Which is now available at usmint.gov in various assorted bag and roll combinations. Now, what I thought was interesting about this year's offerings, and you can correct me if I'm wrong that this wasn't available last year, but you can buy single rolls of S-Mint America the Beautiful quarters this year.
I'm not sure if you could buy them last year or if you only had to buy them in the bags.
I think you had to buy them in the bags, that the 100 coin bag was the smallest, or that you could buy a PD&S roll set, but that you couldn't buy the rolls as the S-Mint rolls as singles.
Well, I'm
and
not sure.
Like I said, I'm not really sure. I'm sure, we'll get 50 million. No, we won't get 50 million emails. But, I don't know if it was something that was available, but it's something that I think is a good thing that it is available, and it's something that I would advocate.
Yeah, sure.
I hate the fact personally that the S-Mints aren't in the mint sets. And I think that they're, kind of one of these coins that slips in between the cracks.
Yeah.
Like your 1999 Susan B. Anthony's, or your 82 and 83 mint state, just regular production coins.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not out there in the numbers that people think they are. Now, maybe somebody, if they were enterprising and they're spending time at a coin show anyway, would buy a roll and maybe sell these as singles. So, if this option is available to people, I just think that at least it'll put more of them out there somewhere. I mean, they're $18.95 for a roll, which is $10 face, so they're not even twice face.
Yeah, I mean, for people that collect those, that's it's got to be a decent deal, but that's just so far out of the way of stuff that I care about these days.
Well,
I'm just being honest, man.
I know, but the thing with them is that, if they're making them, in order to have a complete set, you can't just cherry pick a mid set anymore. So I think that they're one of the coins that kind of slips between the cracks, like your 1999 Susan B. Anthony's, your 82 or 83 mint state coins. The point that I'm making is that for people that do collect moderns, they have, if they want to put together a complete set, they're going to need these coins.
Yeah.
And the fact that at least the single roll option is available to them, I think that, you can get a couple of people together, maybe 4 or 5 of them, and you can split a roll if nothing else. And it's just an economical way of completing your sets. That's
sure.
Kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
Okay. The Royal Canadian Mint is releasing... Yeah, thanks for your enthusiasm.
Sorry.
The Royal Canadian Mint is releasing a $100 bald eagle silver coin as the newest coin in 100 for $100 series.
Oh, that's a pretty cool looking coin, actually.
It is a cool looking coin, and it's a 1 ounce coin. Now, you realize, and I guess I didn't really kind of get the concept of this until it's been beaten over my head for 3 years, but the idea is that these are $100 face value. You can spend them.
Yeah.
There's less than $100 worth of silver in them. It is, for all intents and purposes, a circulating coin. Although, albeit a circulating coin with a maximum mintage of 50,000.
Yeah.
They're 1 ounce of 9999 pure silver, and they have a face value of $100. There's roughly $8 worth of silver in them.
If they're just an ounce, then there's around $20 worth of silver in them.
Okay, then there's $20 worth of silver in them. This becomes one of those things where I think the only people that buy these are the people that want to collect them.
Yeah.
There's too few of them, or I should say that the low mintage is something that might attract people to collecting them, and they're pretty coins on top of it.
Yeah, exactly.
This 100 for 100 series is kind of the premium version of their 20 for 20 series, which, is $20 coins for $20. And all of these 100 for 100 and 20 for 20 that they've done have been sellouts. Every single one of them.
They're popular.
With the exception of the freshly released Canadian Goose coin, which, At 50,000, I guarantee you that'll sell out as well.
Yeah.
So, just something different, something new. I like the fact that they have a premium, a little bit larger version of it. I just wish it'd be more than a 1-ounce coin.
Yeah, well, I mean that's how they make their money.
Yeah. Well, I mean the senior agenda is good, and they're good with it any way you want to do with it. They're like, if you want to spend it, go ahead, eh?
Yeah. You knob.
Yeah, go ahead, you hoser.
You hoser.
Now, speaking of 2-ounce coins, the Perth Mint of Australia is announcing a new series of high relief coins in their Gods of Olympus series. It's a series of 2-ounce silver coins that are limited to 1,500 coins.
Huh.
Now, 2014's entry will be, of course, the god Zeus. I mean, if anything worth doing is worth doing right.
Oh, I thought they put Queen Elizabeth on both sides.
No, Queen Elizabeth is on one side. And the funny thing is that if you look, let's see, who has this posted? I think it is coinnews.net. If you go to coinnews.net and you look up the series of the coins of Olympus, or the gods of Olympus series, and then you look, it has the latest effigy of Queen Elizabeth. But if you look at it, it's like, I don't know if it's the kind of blackish, burnished finish that they have to it. It really
like
shows
said,
like every wrinkle and every...
I'm having trouble telling which side's which on this coin.
That's kind of like the undead Queen Elizabeth,
But no, actually, I think it's pretty cool looking.
Well, it's definitely different. You want to talk about a hockey puck. I mean, this has no edge reading. It has nothing like that. It's a high-relief 2-ounce silver coin. Now, my thing is where do you go from Zeus?
That's true. Yeah, there are other gods. Poseidon and Mercury and...
Well, you got to decide. Are you going to go with the Roman or with the Greek? They're going with the Greek gods, so we have to make sure that we don't cross. I always get the ones confused. As to which ones are which. But, this is kind of the follow-up, if you ask me, to the concave constellations coins that the Perth Mint had done for the last couple of years. The concave convex ones.
Sure,
like the Southern Cross in it and things like that. So, here's proof to you that they're pushing the envelope in different directions. And, you may like it, you may not. I say that when you are on the edge, some of it is going to kind of fall off the edge. And some of it, but some of it's going to hit right on. And in my opinion, those constellation coins really hit the mark. This coin, you kind of like it. I'm not all that excited about it.
I bet you it'll look better in person.
If you ask me, it kind of looks like an Olympic medal.
Well, and the fact that Zeus kind of looks like a zombie doesn't help.
Well, he does, and he's ripped. I mean
oh yeah,
Zeus.
Get that guy some tape because he's ripped.
Get him a sandwich. I mean, he looks like he needs something.
Get that guy a Band-Aid because he's cut.
And then my of course comment to that also is it's how do you follow up Zeus? Where do you go with that? It's like following Jerry Lee Lewis. Have you ever heard this story?
No.
Okay, Jerry Lee Lewis, you know who he is, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Rock musician, and he came on stage, and the guy comes on to go on after him, and he goes, who are you? And he goes, oh, I come on after you, and he goes, oh, okay, and he takes a can of lighter fluid, and he lit the piano on fire, and he's like, follow that.
Well, yeah, okay.
Zeus is kind of that same thing. It's like, how do you follow that?
Especially without a piano.
Yeah, well, if it's on fire. And finally in the news, sales for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 dollars are slow, and the introductory pricing has now expired.
Interesting.
Now, that said, the mintage for the uncirculated coin may be among the 10 lowest mintages in modern commemorative era.
Huh. So it seems like we're having more of these lately with that gold coin that we just talked about. Now this.
Yes.
Interesting.
I think that they tend to come in times when times are a little tough.
Yeah.
People don't have quite as much disposable income, but they also sometimes can come in series that don't seem to have the mainstream kind of, influence to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, if you look at the coinnews.net article, it isn't even coinnews.net. There was somebody else that was talking about this about
News
this
Blog.
design. Mint News Blog, that was the one that was. And Mint News Blog is basically saying, well, maybe the design wasn't as good as it could have been. You know what? The design is beautiful. I have no problem with the coin itself. You know, I just, hey, maybe the low numbers will spur on, you know, people being able to buy them. I mean, it's early in the year, so the coins could be available for a while.
Yeah.
You know, and people are always trying to prospect for that.
That
You know,
hidden moneymaker.
Yep. They want the next Jackie Robinson. And, you know, by the time, which gold coin was it that just did it?
So we just talked about it. What was it?
I know, we talked about it last.
5-star general uncirculated.
Oh, the 5, right. And it's like, and then this one presents itself to you, and bam, and it's like, and now you're chasing it. And as soon as you're chasing it, that's when the prices jump.
Yeah.
So you got to get in on it before people are chasing.
Well, with a series like this, who knows how many people are going to chase it?
And that's the thing is, you know, when you have something that the mintage is small anyway, you're really kind of taking a chance on some of this stuff. Yes, you know, the payoff can be really big, but sounds to me like you can also kind of get left holding the bag on several things you may not want.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yep, that's speculation. You can find these and other news stories from the coin world on our website at coinshowradio.com. Just click on News on the top bar for our RSS news feed. Matt?
Yes, sir.
The last opportunity for Coin Show listeners to go to the National Money Show in Atlanta, where they can sign a congratulations card for you and me at the A&A booth.
Okay.
Which, if that doesn't draw them in, I can't understand why.
Are they going to have our beautiful pictures up there?
No, they're not scaring anybody away like that.
Okay.
But they
I was
will
gonna
be
say.
giving away a free copy of American Numismatist by Paul Hollis
Really?
and other assorted door prizes to anyone who signs the card.
Well, hell.
And by signing the card, you'll be entered in a drawing for a turn in the cash cube.
Oh.
Now, the
They
cash
won't
cube
even
is
let
good.
us in the cash.
You know who the one of our followers,
Friends of the show?
Yes, a friend of the show, V. Kurt Bellman, is going to be at the Atlanta show doing pirate duty.
Oh.
Yar,
Yar.
yar.
He's a pirate.
Yeah, he's going to be doing pirate duty down there.
No,
So you
he's
go down
not
and
V.
see
Kurt Bellman. He's V. Kurt Pirate.
V. Kurt Pirate.
Pirate.
Yar. So there's a $6 daily admission, and on Saturday, March 1st, admission is free for everybody.
Awesome.
So you can go and you can scope out the show for a couple of days, and then you can bring all your friends on March 1st for free. Now, as for the rest of the days, A&A members get in free, and they get in 30 minutes before the public on Friday and Saturday. And as a thank you, the American Numismatic Association decided to give away 2 free A&A memberships. And our winners for the free A&A memberships, and the winners are Phil Moore and Aaron Kaufman. So you guys, if you respond to me as soon as you get my email, if you respond to me about your free A&A membership, we can get you hooked up with that so that you can go to the Atlanta Money Show for free with your new A&A membership. How do you like that?
For free.
For free. On the Coin Show and the A&A. That's all courtesy of the American Numismatic Association.
Those guys rock.
And all information for the show, you can find it online at nationalmoneyshow.com. You know, Matt,
Yes, sir.
it's amazing sometimes how, I told you this last time, how we kind of independently come up with our own ideas for this show. And we have our own preferences and our own bents and our own kind of, angles that we take on things.
Yep.
And oddly enough, this week, I'm talking about something older, and you're talking about something modern.
Exactly. And you're the modern collector, and I'm the guy that
I'm
that
supposed to
loves
be
the
the
old
guy
stuff.
that appreciates the modern stuff, and you can't stand it. And you're supposed to be the guy that appreciates the older stuff, and I can't afford it. So
maybe we're finding inspiration in things that we hate.
Maybe so, or maybe we're just finding inspiration in each other.
Oh, that's true. Let's hug.
So you got radio hug.
Oh.
Got the whole listenership in with us.
Oh. Well, this episode, I wanted to talk about 1950 D nickels. Now, to the collector that doesn't collect modern stuff, you think, oh, it's a 1950 D nickel. Most of the 50s nickels aren't worth anything anyways. And, honestly, that's pretty true. Most of the nickels in the 50s are really just, to me, spendable.
Well, their composition isn't anything that has any intrinsic value. They're not rare by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, not even close.
Yep. And of the Jefferson Nickels, the 1950D is probably the one coin that I see in uncirculated condition the most often. And the reason for this is that when the mint released the mintage figure in 1950, it was made public. The collectors and speculators saw that the mint had only made 2.63 million 50D nickels, which at the time was not a lot. Compared to some of the other mintages in that era.
Well, I was going to say, if you look at the mintages of the Jefferson Nickels series in general, and you go back to the beginning of it, that mintage is the lowest, if not, it is the lowest mintage of any of the Jefferson Nickels to that point. That was it. It was lower than the Key 38D and the Key 39D.
Yep. So people saw that and said, oh, geez, these are going to be rare. We need to get them. And the market kind of agreed with them at that point. After these coins were issued, the price climbed for over a decade, eventually reaching around $25 a coin in 1964, which in today's money and adjusted for inflation is about $100 a coin.
Which is way too much.
Well, but at the time, that's what they were bringing.
Yeah.
And also adjusted for inflation, that's about $4,000 a roll. If you look at it that way. Now,
it's something that I want to kind of give our listeners a little bit of insight about is, this happened during the middle of the roll collecting craze.
Yes,
in the 1950s or the late 1950s and early 1960s, where people weren't content. It's like it was post-World War II. There's a baby boom going on, a lot of disposable income. People are collecting things, and they start collecting coins and getting into hobby interests like that. And what they found is that it wasn't good enough to have just a nice example of something. They figure, well, if one's good, 40's got to be great.
Yeah, an original mint roll's got to be awesome.
Right, and so what they did was they started putting away rolls of virtually every coin. And okay, to put in perspective the mintage of a 1950 D nickel, you're talking about 2.63 million. Well, nothing with a mintage of 2.6 million is rare, or is it ever going to be rare?
Yeah. Even stuff that wasn't hoarded with a mintage of 2.63 million is still pretty readily available.
Well, I mean, look at a 31S Lincoln set.
Well, yeah, those were kind of sort of hoarded.
Well, that was my point, is that they actually hoarded that coin, and had they not, the values would probably be double what they are. And it was because at the time when it was around, people looked at it and said, wow, this is a really low mintage. And in the 50s, it got completely out of hand with people stuffing away rolls of stuff. And so because of that, even the silver coins that you can find today, the Washingtons and the Franklins, I mean, you just find them by the roll and by the roll and by the roll. And so none of them really have carried any value at all over time.
No, and that was my next point. In 1964, a roll's value was about $4,000 in today's money, or $100 a coin, and ever since then, it's pretty much been downhill. These days, you can get an average uncirculated specimen for $10 or less.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I was doing my research, I heard, and I wasn't able to confirm this because I don't have the 1964 edition of the Red Book, but apparently there is a rumor that the 50D nickel is the only coin listed in the 1964 edition of the Red Book that actually has a lower price listed in the current edition of the Red Book.
Okay, well, here, I'm going to help you a little bit with this because it just so happens that I'm really old like that. And I don't have a 1964 red book. I have a 1962 red book.
Okay.
And I have a 1964 blue book, but I digress.
Yes.
So your 1950D in the 1962 red book is listed in extremely fine at $2 and uncirculated at $5. And then they even have stars next to it. Everything from 1950 to 1955 or through 1959, they have stars next to it, and it says speculative.
Speculative.
Even at that point, they realized that people were speculating in these coins. Now, I looked at the 64 blue book, which is supposed to be more the wholesale kind of version of it, and they had it listed at $7.50. So, even in that day, these coins were, 62 was about the time they really started catching on, and within 2 years, wholesale, they were selling for twice as much.
Wow, that's nuts. That's absolutely crazy. And today, like I said, today you can pick them up for $5 or $7 a coin for nice uncirculated ones.
It's funny because you were talking about the fact that you rarely see any of them that are circulated.
Yeah,
it's
that's
kind of a rare thing.
That's exactly right. When we buy sets of Jefferson Nickels, the 50D is always uncirculated. Even if every other coin in the set is circulated, the 50D is always, and by always, I mean about
99?
Not 99, but probably 85% of the time, the 50D is uncirculated. It's funny because it's actually more rare to see a circulated 50D just simply because so many people saved them.
And the first thing that hit my mind when I thought about that was the 1903 Morgan dollar, which is almost rare to see in circulated condition because they were in the treasury hoards. And so most of them were released when the silver was being priced and people were taking them and putting them away. Yeah, so they never circulated.
And I was going to ask you if you could think of any modern-day examples of coins that are like the 50D that when they first came out, they were hoarded. And I have a couple that come to mind right away, but I want to see if you have any.
Well, as a matter of fact, I do. I have a list for you.
Really?
Yes, I have a list for you. And I stopped after a couple. But the first thing that comes to mind, the absolute first thing that comes to mind, is statehood quarters.
Yeah.
Because statehood quarters, everybody had this really great idea in 1999 that, hey, I'm going to put away rolls of this stuff. When the series is over, I'm going to put together uncirculated sets and sell them. I got 40 of them per roll. It's a great idea. That was the first thing that came to mind. The second thing, and I think something is even more fitting, is something that you despise even more. First spouse gold.
Oh, well, yeah, the first 3 or 4, yeah.
First spouse gold. All matte finish mint set coins from 2005 to 2010. Okay. And all graded silver American Eagles. Now, all of these examples, all of these are examples to me because they show how the perceived value of the coins drove a market that couldn't support them. And when the market realized how saturated it was, the coins traded at either face or melt.
Yeah, and I was thinking the couple that came to my mind were the 2009 nickels and dimes that everybody was going crazy about trying to find. Do you remember that?
Yes, and the thing is have any of them ever really surfaced?
I think they all went to Puerto Rico.
Well, that's where they were found, because I remember, there being a big to-do about it. And do you ever see any of them in your store?
I don't bother to look, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, I mean, I know that some dealers will trade in rolls of those specific dates. But yes, I think you're right. They're another thing that when the laundry all comes out, the
mintages are like in the hundreds of millions. Just because you can't find them doesn't mean that they didn't go somewhere.
Yeah, particularly the 2009. I think it was the Nickels.
Nickels and dimes.
There was 39 million of the one made. I mean, 39 million is it's 18 times as many as the 50Ds. And what are we talking about in this segment?
Yep, exactly right. And the 50Ds and all this other stuff we're talking about is a great example of how speculation and collector perception can change the market for certain coins over time. These particular coins, you can find them in junk boxes, discount slab boxes, and, you're not really going to get rich buying the 50D nickels, but the one thing I like about them, this is the only good thing I have to say about 50Ds.
Hold on a minute. Let me get a thing. I want to write this down.
Yep. The thing that is good about 50Ds is because they were hoarded and because they were saved, you can actually find attractively toned examples of these particular coins, and that might make them worth collecting.
The only thing that I found of a 50D that is remotely redeeming, God, I'm starting to sound like you.
You are. I'm rubbing off on you.
That's remotely redeeming is to find ones with full steps.
Yeah.
64, 65 and up. But you said that the speculators really drove this, and it's the market, kind of got really excited, and the prices went way up, and then the market itself realized, well,
wait a second.
Yeah, there's tons of these things, so and the coins just basically became almost worthless afterwards. Okay, Matt, so I'm going to talk about something that I really don't know. I don't think I know enough about, and it's kind of why I stray away from subjects like this.
But you have the Mike Library of Numismatics.
Well, I do. I do probably have. I have a really good library, but
I know you do.
But the fact of the matter is that I know so little about these that I would much rather be ignorant and not say anything than spew either wrong or bad knowledge. So
well, it's okay, because if you are wrong or do spew bad knowledge, our listeners will definitely let you know.
Yeah, they'll be writing those 10 angry letters. Yeah. So what I wanted to talk about were half cents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, originally proposed as a coin that would benefit the poor by Alexander Hamilton, the half cent is still underappreciated by collectors, and in my opinion, is a series that would be worth considering if you're thinking of trying something different.
I like them.
Now, half cents have a cachet that you don't find in many other defunct denominations. They seem to be kind of the cool kid among the 2-cent and 3-cent pieces,
Mm-hmm.
The odd denominations. And yet, they don't seem to be as popular as one might expect. Now, I like them, and I'm personally attracted to them because they have a defunct denomination. They come from an amazing era in both U.S. history and U.S. mint history.
Yeah, I mean, some of the very first coins ever minted were half cents.
Yes, and maybe a little bit because they're so unloved. Now they're just a touch larger than a nickel for somebody who's never really had one in their hand or near them, and they weigh slightly more as well. They're just the perfect size to not have much in the way of intrinsic value, and even today, they're really not thought of as worth melting.
No.
What?
Just that you came up with that comment. Yeah. They're not worth melting. Those
they're not worth melting.
1850s half cents,
Yeah. Well, people are collecting copper cents, and they're melting them. Now, Matt and I get asked many times about unappreciated or underappreciated coins, and it seems to me, as I mentioned earlier, that people are always kind of prospecting for that next series that's suddenly going to gain in value. Half cents have the potential to be that next big series if they ever do find a mainstream popularity, and therein lies the trick, is they've got to be mainstream popular for, the demand to go up.
Yes.
Half cents were all minted in Philadelphia, and as such, there are no mint marks to collect. But there is still a wide variety of types within the rather short 64-year lifespan of the denomination. The obverse design changed 3 times in the coin's first 10 years of production. 1793 having its own type, the Liberty cap on pole facing left, and then the 1794 to 99 coins feature a very similar image but reversed with Liberty facing right. From 1800 to 1808, the drape bust design was used, and the coin's design and subsequent changes kind of mimicked the cents designs of the time, and it kept a uniformity between the two denominations. And, the mint liked doing that as kind of a policy. The silver and the gold coins all had uniform designs among them. Even into the late 1800s, the copper coins, they had their own design, and they were different from both the silver and the gold. In 1809, the Mint employed the classic head design, and this is one of my personal favorite coin designs of all time.
Yeah. I knew you liked classic heads.
I do. I like classic heads. Many have wrongly referred to it as a turban head because it looks like Liberty is wearing kind of a nightcap, kind of like the cap bust ones. But Liberty isn't wearing a cap. Her hair is completely exposed, and she's wearing a coronet. In 1816, the large cent design was changed, but the half cent, to my delight, thankfully retained the same classic head design and would do so until 1836, the final year of the classic head half cent. Mm-hmm. That was a year that only proofs would be struck. Now, no half cents would be struck at all in 1837, 8, or 9, the hard times era. And I find it kind of ironic that a coin supposedly made to help the poor was coined during an era called hard times, but I digress. When production of half cents resumed in 1840, the new braided hair Liberty design seen on the cents was being coined. But demand for half cents was almost non-existent, and again, only proofs would be minted from the period from 1840 through 1848. And many may not know, but they were also restruck in the years directly afterwards. You see, the era of the 1850s and the tenure of James Barton Longacre as mint director saw many coins restruck for collectors in exchange for pieces that Longacre wanted for the mint cabinet. Mm-hmm. Now, the collection that resides in the Smithsonian Institution is the result of Longacre's work, as well as that of others, and it would have never seen some of the rarities that it has, if not for these exchanges. Although I wrote in my notes, one might think that if they were restriking these in exchange, why not just make what they needed? Again, I digress. Now, restrikes of half cents are common for dates in the 1840s, but are estimated to be far less in number than the regular proofs of those years, at roughly less than 50 per restrike. But there doesn't seem to be a significant premium for one over the other. And with such small mintage numbers, it strikes me as a bit odd. You know, maybe the restrikes are less desirable, but they're truly rare coins. Mm-hmm. You know, it shows you how demand influences price more than rarity does. The restrikes are readily discernible from the regular coinage. You know, as the reverse of the 1840s era restrikes have small berries, and the regular strikes have large berries. So, I mean, you can readily tell the difference between the two of them.
I think they just have this stigma as being not of business strike. You know what I mean? Like
of the era being a restrike somehow taints them as they're not. Well, maybe so.
Even though some of those coins were made just a few years later.
Yeah, I mean they were made within like the next generation.
Yeah,
and you know, and largely were made just the same. There's also some die markers in the way of striations on some of the reverses. Mm-hmm. And collecting these coins by die marriage or by reverse types is a real challenge, but it's really kind of rarely done anymore.
It's I wouldn't say rarely done. There's a whole kind of subculture of the copper guys, I call them. Mm-hmm. And these are the early American copper guys that will go out and collect this stuff, either colonials or large cents or half cents, and they will go out and try to collect either rare die pairs or try to assemble a set of complete die pairs. So they still do it, but I do think that it's kind of a niche subculture.
Yeah, they love their coppers. The early American copper collectors, you know, there's a whole group
that's dedicated
to them. They go as far as to have their own grading.
Yes.
You know, how they grade the coins is different than ANA standards, and it's really a lot stricter, and I kind of like it because it fits what they do, you know, better. And they've developed that over the years. But it's my opinion that a lot of those people tend to focus either on colonial issues or large cents, and not quite as many of them on half cents. Yeah. But maybe that's just because of the lack of half cents out there.
That may very well be true.
Now, in 1849, circulation strike coins were resumed, but there was not much rejoicing. Regular coinage would continue through 1851, with proofs only again in 1852. And circulation strikes again resumed from 1853 to 1857, when the half cent was officially abolished by the Mint Act of 1858. Now, you know, I had said that in my experience, when most people think of U.S. coinage before 1850, they rarely think of proofs. You know, the half cent series is loaded with proof-only issues.
Yeah.
And many of the later dates in the series were only available as proofs to collectors. The spotty patches of circulation strikes, especially towards the end of the series, are probably the most commonly seen of these coins, but are still infinitely lovable and collectible.
Yeah. Oh, and the proofs are exceedingly scarce.
Yes, yes. But even the circulation strikes are still, they're collectible.
Yep.
Now, overdates exist, as they do in most early series, and these can be a fun and rewarding pursuit. As with most early U.S. Mint products, the dies were used until they cried for help. and
Literally.
that means that there not only are there overdates, but there are coins that were struck in the next year with the previous date. There's an 1809 over 6 half cent.
Mm-hmm.
Because they went back. Really? Because they went back and they reused the die. I had noted that the most famous example of this in the mint being silver dollars struck in 1804 that were dated 1803. Yeah. And those were the reason that the 1804 dollars were struck, is because they were unaware that they were dated 1803, but they were mentioned in the mint report of 1804.
Yep.
There are other cool varieties that exist as well. Let's see if you got one of these in your shop. In 1828, for example, one obverse die has only 12 stars, and those are popular.
Yes, they are.
There have never been any hordes of the 12-star coins, so in mint state, it is a true rarity. Do you have any of those in your shop?
If I do, they're low grade. Not worth mentioning.
I might have a couple laying around, but I forgot about them. There are reversed varieties as well within the Drape Bust half-cent series. But the mix of circulation strikes and proofs make for an interesting collection of coins that can make deciding on a grade to collect them in rather difficult.
Before we move on to grade, I want to mention a couple of cool things that I've seen in my years. Some of the really early half cents I have found very interesting because the mint was having so much trouble garnering planchets. I've seen them struck on cut down colonial tokens where you can actually make out the tokens writing underneath the strike of the half cent. I've seen them. I recently sold a particular piece that was kind of interesting. We had an 18. No, I'm sorry. It was a 1797 large cent that was double struck on the reverse, but the obverse was struck normally. And what happened, because we were able to identify the die pairings that the coin was struck with, it looks like the coin was actually struck off center and then discarded. And then as they got short on planchets, they salvaged the coin from the discard pile and restruck it with a different die pair. So that kind of stuff, I mean, the early stuff especially, the 1804 and earlier stuff has always been my favorite, just because there's so many cool varieties in there.
I always thought it was interesting that when they overstruck them over the tokens, the non-mint products that they allowed, some of the design to get through. But, when you think about it, they're using screw presses and they're manual power.
They just didn't have the oomph to get rid of it.
They just did the best they could.
Yeah.
And, that's another testament to, you look at the earliest days of the U.S. Mint, and it's like they used stuff until it broke. They borrowed from Peter to pay Paul. They were always trying to, as George Bailey put it, he's always trying to save on 5 feet of pipe to buy a length of rope, and that's just kind of the way that the mint was going, and everything that was made there was made at a cost to the mint, versus to the all that kind of stuff.
It was very, very rudimentary, especially compared to today's standards.
Yes.
But yeah, that kind of environment, tends to create things like we're talking about, which I've always liked. I'm sorry.
I thought that was interesting.
I wanted to mention those because I thought those were pretty cool pieces that I've actually, gotten to handle over the years.
Yeah. I think that I always like the super early mint stuff. I don't see how you can not like that stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, so the mix of circulation strikes and proofs, make for an interesting collection of coins. But it can make deciding on a grade to collect them in rather difficult. You might decide to collect the circulation strikes in a more forgiving, lower condition rather than try to match the proof issues because, some of these circulation strike coins, even getting into very fine, are just, they're monsters.
Yes.
Now, I also find it really cool that these coins can be almost pristine, and yet some of them are over 150 years old. You know, there appears to be a very small number of these coins in total, but nearly all, including the restrikes, can be found certified in proof 66 or 67. And to me, that says that they were saved and collected even when they were being issued.
Yeah.
Which at the time, there weren't that many coin collectors.
And do you have your red book in front of you?
I do. Which one?
It doesn't matter. That's
Current or
fine.
the 1962 version?
They should both have the same information. I'm talking about mintages. Go ahead and let's open up your red book to half cents. I kind of want you to just peruse through the mintages.
Okay. What year would you like to know?
It doesn't matter. Just kind of look through the mintages and find a low
The
year.
mintages are not in the 1962 red book.
Okay, so
They're not even
right.
in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're looking at, let's see, half cent mintages, 1796 with poll.
No, let's go a little later. Let's go into the
Okay.
stuff that you still see. Let's try like the 1830s.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. You know, 1804 half cents of all kinds. They minted over 1 million of them.
Yes, those are actually the most common of the early ones that we see.
Yeah, I see a lot of draped busts when I look at half cents.
Yes.
But when you get into the 1830s, and not getting into the restrikes, let's go with 1825.
Okay.
Where there's a mintage of 63,000.
Okay.
And the first line is fine, and it's an $80 coin.
Yeah. Where in any series in American history can you buy a coin with a mintage of 51,000 for $80?
For under $100, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the other thing I love about half cents is you can get some incredibly scarce coins for not a lot of money.
Yeah, I was looking at the 1850s. Now, I actually own a half cent. I have
Do
one.
you?
I have one because I really like them. I think they're cool. And the one I have is an 1855, which is a relatively common date. There's 56,000 of them made. But even in EF, it's a $100 coin.
Yeah, 56,000.
56,000.
I mean, that's not a lot.
160 years old.
Yeah.
And still in really, really good shape.
Yeah.
Even though it more than likely saw some use. Mm-hmm. You know, and then you get into these coins, and this is, I think, what people who collect the coppers love so much about them is you start to think about whose hands did these coins come across. You know, that's always the interesting thing.
Yeah, I've always noticed that about half cents is that a lot of the times the mintages are just absolutely minute, and the coins aren't that much money. So
No.
you know, these people today looking at like 50D Nickels, for example, that have a mintage of 2.6 million, you know, and they were trading at $25 a coin.
Yeah.
Pull out the 62 red book. I want to see the first line price guide on, let's say, a 25 half cent.
1825 half cent.
Yeah, like the one we talked about.
I believe good $3.75, fine $6.50, Unk $23.50.
So the thing is, you could buy a good. You could buy a good in 1960s, a good 1825 half cent
For $5
less than a 50D nickel.
Yep.
I mean, that just blows my mind.
Yeah, and this could not illustrate what we're always telling people, though. It's like collect what you like, and do it because you want to collect it, not for value. Because markets come and markets go, and you know you never know where you're going to be in that ocean.
Yes.
You know, as the waves come lapping into the shore. You like that analogy, didn't you? Okay. Well, something that I also found to be interesting was uncovered as I did my research about this series. And that is the fact that the mintage numbers for non-silver minor proof coins minted before 1873 were not recorded, and as such are completely unknown.
Huh.
Non-silver minor coins. So the half times they did note the proofs,
Yeah.
but all your 3 set pieces, all your nickel 5 set pieces, and all of your sets and half sets that were minted in proofs, the numbers, they didn't even keep track.
Interesting.
They have absolutely no idea. So for that reason, many of the proof mintage numbers are estimated, as are the numbers for the restrikes. And I find it just absolutely unfathomable that only circulation strike numbers were tracked for, you know, non-silver minor coins. But it's a neat window into the attitudes of the early U.S. Mint and what they considered worthy of note.
Yeah.
Now, while not a budget collection by any stretch of the imagination, half cents should be appreciated as a series that is simple and straightforward. You know, you can collect them by type or by date by proof, or by circulation strike. But if you'd like, these small coppers can pose a significant collecting challenge for those interested in turning up the level of difficulty on their hunt to 11. I mean, you can make this,
Yes.
something that you can't even keep up with.
Yes. Oh, it can get gnarly real fast.
Yeah.
But there's also, like we were talking about, there's also a lot of coins in there that I would think would be gnarly just by looking at the numbers, but and
are
relatively affordable.
Yep. Now, I think that half cents offer a series that's varied and interesting, scarce and historic. They can be traced back from the earliest days at the U.S. Mint to the period right before the Civil War. A time when the U.S. Mint made very few coins. Period.
Yeah.
Incredibly, some of these coins have survived until today, and some of them in absolutely amazing condition. I think that half cents have more than just a novelty to them. They draw me to collect them as something of days and a world truly gone by.
Yeah.
I think that over time, more people will appreciate these slightly smaller half-cent coins. And as they do, the series can become as big as any other. Their small mintage numbers and even smaller survival numbers will ensure value when demand rises. It is this that I think makes these coins a sleeper series, and one that if I were of the means to do so, I would try to assemble as a you-never-know kind of collection.
I like that.
You never know.
You never know. That's good.
I have been hounding you.
Yes, sir.
That's polite. I think that's polite.
Haunting, more
Yes.
like it, but yes.
I've been hounding you about getting stuff into our Pinterest account,
And I have uploaded some coins.
and I noticed that you uploaded some coins, and yet you tell me that the newest stuff that walked in is not on our Pinterest page.
No, it's not, because these coins were eclipsed by an uber ultra rare American coin that came in the store.
Okay, so we're going to get to that in just a second. But if you have a chance and you have a Pinterest account, go to www.pinterest.com and look. We are the Coin Show. And you can see some of the stuff that walked into Matt's shop this week that we didn't even have time to cover on the show, including what I thought was really cool, an 1859D $2.50.
Yeah, nice coin.
Really
A very nice
sweet
coin. It's actually on its way to the grading company as we speak. It should grade. It would not surprise me if that coin graded in the high AUs or even MS60. If the coin grades MS60, it's a 5-figure coin.
Wow.
So,
And I cherry picked it.
no, I paid a decent amount of money for it, but it's a nice coin. It's
Yeah, it
just
does. It looks pretty. But
It
that's
needs to be
not the
certified.
coolest thing.
not the coolest thing.
Not
That
even
coin-
close
that
is
coin-
what I was told.
That coin was eclipsed by an uber rare American coin that came in the store for sale. Now, at this particular point, I don't own the coin, but I have made what I believe to be a very generous offer to the owner. And this particular coin has a mintage of exactly 25 pieces.
25. I was sitting here because you told me that it's American,
It's
and it's got a
American.
mintage of 25 pieces.
25 pieces.
And it's like, there's only a couple of things that even approach that kind of rarity.
Yeah.
And that's like $1804. All three classes. There's like 17 or 18
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah.
25?
Not quite as unique because this is a proof coin. So
Oh, okay.
Do you care to guess?
Well, you said a mintage of 25.
25.
25. Is it silver?
It is silver.
Okay. That's the first guess was good. 25. A Morgan.
No.
Okay.
Nope. This was an 1834 proof half dime.
Wow.
Yeah. In a PCGS proof 64 plus holder.
Oh, so this one's already slabbed.
Already certified.
1836? 1834 half dime. You know I got to go scrambling for my red book right now.
And the funny thing is, I don't even think they list the proof mintage in the red book. That's
They
how
don't.
scarce that coin is.
They don't.
Yeah.
Wow.
Through my research, that coin has a mintage of 25 pieces. And I think there's only a couple known to exist. The last one that sold came out of the Colonel Green collection.
Colonel Green had several really, really monster coins in his collection.
Yes. And didn't that collection get gobbled up by the Eliasbergs, or most of it?
A lot of it did, because it helped Eliasberg complete his collection.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, the only other one that I could find that's sold in the last 10 years was the ex-Colonel Green coin.
Okay, so this is an 1834 proof half dime.
Yes, sir.
This is a coin that does not say half dime on it. It says 5 cents, and it's one of the first United States coins to actually carry a denomination on it.
Mm-hmm. But yep, that came strolling in the store.
Now, how does something like that come walking in? I mean, that's
an advanced collector has decided to liquidate some of his holdings and decided to come see me about liquidating them. So there were several other really nice. I was handed a PCGS box and said, "Hey, are you interested in any of these?" And I opened it up, and that was about the third coin in. There was about a half dozen proof seated halves. There was a proof cameo barber half.
Wow.
I mean, just absolute monstrous stuff. So, but that particular coin, and we've actually had some, and just to mention this isn't a coin that's for sale, but it's kind of fun to mention. One of my customers is working on a registry set, and he brought a couple of coins in to show me this week. And he brought in a 1856 Flying Eagle penny in proof 64, wow, and also a 16 Standing Liberty quarter in proof or in MS65 full head. So yeah, it's been a week of really monster coins.
Yeah, you've seen some real big stuff this week.
Yeah, and it just comes in spurts like that. The store is really strange. We won't see anything cool for a month, and then within a day or two or three, we'll get really...
Well, nothing that cool for a month.
Yeah.
As has been evidenced by your segments, there are lots of cool things.
Sometimes it's really hard to think of it. This week, I had zero problems thinking of what it would be. Obviously, by the coin that came up on the Pinterest page, I'm not even mentioning the Dahlonega gold piece and the Type 20s and all this other cool stuff that came in.
Yeah, it's amazing that when it rains, it pours, apparently, this week. That,
the 1794 large cent in VF25. I mean, it's been a really interesting week.
Well, I realized how kind of, what's the word I want to use? I mean, it's a little too prideful, I guess, of living in Chicago, thinking that it's such a big city. And then you tell me about some of these really cool coins that walk into your shop, and it's like, I wouldn't expect it. I would expect it more in a big city, like I live in, not so much in a not so big city, like you live in.
Well,
but the point is that it's got to be someplace.
Yeah, it is a big coin town. The number 1 and 2 active Standing Liberty quarter PCGS registries are both my customers in Indianapolis. So, I mean, it's like, Indy's a good coin town. There's a lot of old money here and a lot of old collections that come out every once in a while. So.
And that's the thing is these older collections are spread out everywhere.
Yes.
You really never know where some of this stuff is, and it's all someplace. And there's, as you keep on bringing us examples, there is just some really, really super cool stuff that's out there.
Yep.
Proof half dimes, 1830s proof half dimes.
Yeah, I can tell you that's the only one that's ever walked in, and hopefully I do get a chance to own that coin.
Now you said an aggressive offer on it.
An aggressive offer in the 5-figure range.
Wow. And it's already certified.
Already certified.
So you said it's a PCGS coin.
Yes.
And okay, so would it be your expectation that if you got it that you would be able to turn it? Is that the idea that you're going to turn it rather quickly, or is it something that you're going to use as kind of window candy? Or
the customer that brought in the 56 Flying Eagle and the 16 quarter is already asking me about it. It might be one that comes in and out as that really rare stuff tends to sometimes.
Yeah, it may present itself as a really good opportunity for you, which is that's always good.
I mean, I love rare coins. I love to handle them. I love to put them with people and make people happy to own them. So that's how I work.
Yes, I think what you love is connecting rare coins with the people that really want to love them.
Yes, yes.
You matchmaker, you.
I never thought about it like that.
We would like to thank our contributors, the Facebook friends, Twitter followers, people who wrote to ask questions or in some other way inspired us. Our thanks to the great folks at the American Numismatic Association for their support. Visit them at money.org. There's a new website coming, and I can't wait for the new money.org.
Hopefully they'll have a coin show player in their website.
That would be kind of, yeah. Oh,
that's a strange cough.
Here, yeah, I got to watch that cough. I got to get some suppressant for that. Our thanks to Tony Alvarez and to Tony Alvarez Band for our theme music. Visit them at TonyAlvarezBand.com. We'd also like to thank Mayotley for our bumpers. Her site is hannahmayotley.wix.com/portfolio. And a big thanks to our intern, Taylor Webb. But while those people are important contributors to our show, their importance absolutely pales in comparison to you, the listeners, without whom this entire endeavor would be completely pointless. We love our audience, and we love our audience contributions. Send your hate mail to us, Mike or Matt at CoinShowRadio.com, or you can also ask us questions. Send a question to questions@CoinShowRadio.com. That's questions, plural, at CoinShowRadio.com, or just send it to me or Matt. We answer. Visit our webpage, conveniently located at CoinShowRadio.com. There you will find Matt's articles or my book reviews. On the book review page, you'll find links where you can purchase them on Amazon.com. Purchase them today. We also have pictures and bios if you're interested in knowing what we look like, or if you want to create internet memes, dartboards, or just want to make fun of us. You can also visit our listener map, and there you can place a pin in it and show us where you live. Our winners of the 75th episode contest to win a free ANA membership courtesy of the American Numismatic Association are Phil Moore and Aaron Kaufman. You've won an online ANA membership just in time to go to the Atlanta Money Show February 27th through March 1st. Well, that is if you've responded to my email. Congratulations to Aaron and Phil, courtesy of the ANA. You realize that if they go to the Atlanta Money Show, they can go to the ANA booth for extra prizes, right?
Holy macaroni.
Yeah, there's more of that.
It's a cornucopia of coin prizes.
And more information at atlantamoneyshow.com. Like us on Facebook, come and comment on one of our posts, or post something of your own. Just try and keep it coin-related. Follow us on Twitter. You will occasionally find some exclusive content there as well. I didn't leak anything out this week, which is kind of good. You can find us or even mention us in your discussion. We are at The Coin Show.
Sounds good.
If anyone has noticed, we've been posting a new coin fact every day on Facebook and Twitter. If you like our facts, please give the tweets or Facebook posts a like. I try to keep them interesting. You just let me know what you like. Or you just let me know that you like them and that you're interested. Just saying. We also have a new page on Pinterest where we'll post pictures of the cool things that walk into Matt's shop and other coin-related pictures. You can find us there. We're also at The Coin Show. If you don't see the newest pictures, email Matt at CoinShowRadio.com. Ask him where the new pictures are. Ask him many times. You can also listen to our show on Coin Talk as well as other coin forums. If you'd like to host a player on your website, just email me for details. If you have an Android phone, we have an app for that, and it's available on Amazon.com for $1.99. Download it several hundred times today. We also have a Windows 8 app available in the Windows 8 phone app store. Where else? And as always, our show is available for free on iTunes. We urge you to download our show and share it with a friend. More people are finding us and sharing our show every day. Be the first one to hear each show, and then you can tell all your friends, and you'll be the smart one. So for The Coin Show, I'm Mike.
And I'm Matt.
And we'll talk to you next time on The Coin Show. Are Aaron Kaufman and I want to say Phil Moore, but I want to say it right. And the winners are Aaron Kaufman, not that guy, not the guy from Fast and Loud. That would be cool. Have you had any interest? Damn, I don't even know where to go with this.
Just spray it down with the fire hose.
Yes, I'm going to just kind of roll with it the way it was, and if it sounds rude, we'll take the hate mail.
Oh, well.
Who cares?
Yep, that's okay.
I'll take the hate mail from the speculators.
Yep. make it coinshowradio.com.
That's right. Just spell it right. Just make sure you get coinshowradio. Here, wait a minute. More rocks.
You're like that rock eater from the Neverending Story 2.
I
went there.
Yeah.
I about blew water all over my computer. That would have been bad.
I almost made Jake do that earlier this year. He still laughs about that. He still says that it was the best tweet ever.
Oh, that's true. Let's hug.
See, yes. Radio hug.
Oh.
Got the whole listenership in with us.
Oh.
We could have a party for him in a phone booth.